Here we go. See you on the other side.
Good luck.
And you can talk your way through this. This is to be edited on later.
Okay.
Welcome to another episode of the Good Listening To Show, your life and times with me, Chris Grimes.
That's me.
The storytelling show that features The Clearing, where all good questions come to get asked and all good stories come to be told. And where all my guests have two things in common. They're all creative individuals and all with an interesting story to tell. There are some lovely storytelling metaphors. A clearing, a tree, a juicy storytelling exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, some alchemy, some gold, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare, and a cake. So it's all to play for. So yes, welcome to the Good Listening To Show, your life and times with me, Chris Grimes. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we shall begin.
Oh, yes, indeedy doody. One false start notwithstanding, would you please welcome to the Good Listening To Clearing my very old friend, the lovely, warm, with Scottish dulcet tones actor with the Scottish tones to match, Mr. Cal MacAninch is in the clearing. I bid you very welcome, sir.
Yes.
How are you?
Thank you very much. But what do you mean by old friend?
Well, I tried to say that very kindly, but we do have history. You read at my wedding.
Old friend.
Good vocal tones. I love that. Say that again. That was very interesting.
Very old friend.
You see,
There you go.
He's an actor and he's good.
Yeah.
I like that. We've got history. You read at my wedding about 30 years ago, but before that, I did my first ever commercial, which was a Tennant's Lager commercial called The Wedding, and that's where I met you.
That was one of my first filming jobs as well. Yeah, absolutely. It was a great little shoot, great little commercial. It was a little short story, wasn't it? Lovely.
It was, and then opposite that you later read at my wedding because there was a wedding theme, and I was sort of a hapless best man in the background for that as well, so that was all good.
Yes, you asked me to read a sonnet at your wedding, I believe, which,
Yes.
A wedding full of actors reading a sonnet, and you could feel them all going, oh, he breathed in the wrong place there.
No, you were marvellous, darling, and I know that
Thank
you
you,
have,
darling.
Shakespeare has become a particular thing of you. I know you've played Hamlet in the canon of your work as well.
It did. Yes, it was. I loved that part of my life. It was amazing. And I'll
Yes.
tell you a little more about that later.
Please do, absolutely. So yes, you have also a lovely rowing story to tell. When we got in touch again recently, when I asked you to do this, and thank you for saying yes, you were talking about the fact you were just about to, I know it could have been scuppered temporarily, but you could be about to sail across the Atlantic, row across the Atlantic.
Rome, yes.
Which is, even more epic. So I hope you're going to riff on that too.
Yeah.
Also, sorry, it's very windy here in Bristol, and the window. I've had all sorts of wind-related comedy going on today, but anyway, I've got a shutter there which blew down about 5 minutes ago, nearly decapitating me when I was trying to get my pants on. What are you going to do? Anyway, that's nothing to do with why we're
Get
here.
your pants on, we have to know.
I mean, during the pandemic, you know how many people are really pleased with what they've achieved. Most people I knew were really pleased they got their pants on 3 days in a row without falling over, that sort of thing. Anyway, you're extremely welcome. This is where I'm going to take you through the structure of the podcast, which is a clearing, a tree, some alchemy, some gold, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare and a cake. So, yes, you're really welcome, and you are a much respected and well-regarded Scottish actor. You've just been in Vigil, the BBC One series, which I was just watching. And all to play for again. Also, I found it very funny. We did a bit of a banterous exchange last week where your character was being pursued by the police, and I texted you saying, they're searching your caravan. I'd stay out if I were you. I don't know if you found that funny, but I did.
I did very much, yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, yes, so what's your story of the day? How's morale, Cal MacAninch?
Good, I'm sorry it's a bit grey today. It's normally lovely and sunny, always lovely and sunny here, but today it is a little bit grey. Han yil I grianach and you, as they say in the Gaelic.
Oh, yes, a lovely bit of Gaelic poetry as well there. And you mentioned that your lovely 3 daughters and your wife are out at the moment?
Yes, Shauna very kindly took the girls to a cafe for lunch because it is half term here. And when Chris and I agreed to do this on this date, I had completely forgotten it's half term because I thought they'd all be at school, you see.
Yeah, best laid plans.
We got some quiet, but I do have two dogs, a Weimaraner, very big, and a Chihuahua, very small. And if the door goes with the postman, there will be a cacophony of barking.
Yes,
so
please.
Please bear with.
I love the comedy dog procurement of something epically large and something very small. One being a snack for the other, I would wager sometimes.
Well, the little one is sort of more in control, though in fact the cat rules the house, but that's another story. But no, Bear is a massive dog. He's very gentle, and but he's very powerful, so the girls can never take him for a walk. So I bought Shauna a Chihuahua for her 40th, and now they can take a Chihuahua for a walk. So
and is this a sort of, imagining the size of a Chihuahua, is this something that can be put in a handbag, which would be helpful for you?
Exactly. It's not something that appeals to me, but Shauna loves the idea.
Wonderful.
But the Chihuahua sleeps on top of Bear, who is the Weimaraner. He sleeps on top of him, so it's very sweet.
It's a veritable menagerie you are describing, which sounds very appealing.
Indeed, indeed. And thankfully, the cat got rid of the mice, or it would have been a complete children's story.
Yeah, and you're living the dream because you've also, in your Facebook photograph, you've got a wonderful motorbike that you enjoy straddling as well. So you're sort of living the dream with.
Yes, I love my motorbike. I moved up here 14 years ago, and I moved up. My sister-in-law said, get your license. There's bikes in the garage because they both ride. And my father-in-law is 74, 75 now. Yeah. He still rides his motorbike. And it never clicked with me. I never really thought about it. And I realized later both my brothers rode bikes. They're 20 years older than me, but they both rode bikes. One of my brothers, my eldest brother, was a motorcycle cop in the Metropolitan Police in London.
Wow.
But nothing, nothing, no connection whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right. In Australia, rides a bike, nothing. And then one day I must have been unemployed or something. I thought, I'll do my CBT, compulsory basic training.
Yeah.
Didn't even know how to start a motorbike. I'd never really sat in one before, apart from the back. And after my compulsory basic training, I just fell in love with riding a motorcycle. And then rode a 125 for a year, sat my test, and then the rest is history. And I was hoping my father-in-law, his family's from the island of Lewis, out of Hebrides, I was hoping, because he would go to Lewis twice a year on his motorbike, great journey up to the Highlands and Islands. I was hoping he would invite me, and eventually he did, and we had this epic ride together, and it was just one of the best trips of my life. It was fantastic.
And what's the sort of the beastie of the machine that you have now that you're riding?
I've got a Honda CBR 600F. That means anything to you? So it's called a mid-tourer. It used to be called a sports bike, but it's now a mid-tourer. So it's pretty nippy. It can get you out of trouble if you need to move swiftly, But it's the touring I do it for, and coming to it later. It's not just about the young guns, speed, and it's about, there's a wonderful, incredible sense of freedom when you ride a motorcycle. Whenever I go to get on it, it makes me smile because I know it's going to feel amazing. And people who don't ride, sometimes I'd say I ride a bike, and you see them, their brains going, and they go, "Oh, really? I know someone who was really injured, or I know someone who was killed." And I thought, And anyone who rides a bike goes, "Oh, it's good, isn't it? What have you got?" That's the sort of conversations you hear, And it's sort of the same with rowing the Atlantic. People who have rowed and know about rowing, especially coastal rowing, go, "Oh, that's amazing. I wish it was me." Whereas people who don't go, I know someone who capsized and had to be rescued. You know what I mean? It's the same sort of thing, Whereas I see it as it's like a form of freedom. It's like liberating, letting go of something when you experience it. It's joyful, and there's great beauty in it as well.
But one of your wonderful Facebook posts was left North Berwick this morning for our 60k row across the Forth, made it to Ely, or Ellie, you might be able to help me with the pronunciation, in Ely. 2 hours. And some seals and a whale came up to say hello. So it does sound like it is a dream. It sounds fantastic. Yeah,
that's what gave me the real taste for rowing the Atlantic, because we were, I say, only out in the middle of the Firth of Forth, which is an estuary.
Yes.
But that's what a whale breached beside a whale. We thought it was a dolphin at first, and a dolphin would have been amazing. But it came up several times, a whale. And then porpoises and plethora of seals and seabirds, and the whole landscape changes when you're out at sea like that. And I just imagine the feeling of knowing all those creatures are beneath you, crossing an ocean, and seeing the stars on a dark night. When there's no clouds, a clear night, seeing the Milky Way and things like that. So that just fired my imagination when I thought, and when I was invited to to join a crew last October. You know, in life, doors open for you and you choose whether to go through them. And I just went, yeah, I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah.
Even though it's totally daunting. It's a terrifying prospect, but it's thrilling at the same time. And if you say yes rather than no, adventures happen for you.
You're a man after my own heart. It's the sort of comedy improvisational yes and mindset. If you say yes more, opportunities present. Absolutely.
Exactly. I agree.
And I'm assuming and hoping you may be riffing more about the boating as we go through the curated journey here. So let's get you going on the good listening to structure. So I'm intrigued to know with everything. I mean, at the bedrock of all of this, you're obviously a consummate actor. So maybe some of the stuff is going to be about the theatrescape and the filmscape in which you've been in as well. But let's just get going and let's find out. So Cal MacAninch, thank you for saying yes again. What is a clearing like for you, literally or metaphorically? Where do you go to get clutter-free, inspirational, and able to think?
Well, there is a moment when I row about 3 or 4 times a week, just off the coast. So I live in Portobello in Edinburgh, and I'm in a coastal rowing club called Eastern. And so we go out. You can go every day of the week if you want, but I do about 3 or 4 maybe rows a week. And there's a moment because they do a warm-up exercise and you do your first exercise because it's a training row because we take it seriously. We're training for races. And there's a moment once you've done the first exercise or the second exercise and we all pause and we have a drink of water. And you also have a discussion about how the training just went or whatever, but sometimes there's just this quiet moment where you take in where you are. And as I was saying earlier about when you're out at sea, the land is totally different. And it's a great brief moment for reflection, contemplation, and just being present to, the wonder of it, I suppose. So I would choose, if it's not too complicated, that quiet moment in the boat.
No, that's absolutely beautiful, actually, and not too complicated at all. I love that. And whereabouts is the boat positioned geographically, or is that not important at this moment in your clearing?
No, it's not important because you can look all around you and you can see either land or sea, sky. You see the vastness of the sky. I love seeing a vast sky. So the position in the boat is not important.
It's being in the boat and that moment of calm before the work begins again. Love that. Yeah. Beautiful. So I'm now going to arrive with a tree in your boat, if I may. And what's the boat called, by the way? Because I know they're very complex, the different names of the types of boats that you do row in.
Sprite.
So here I am. So it's a bit Waiting for Godot-esque. I'm going to arrive with a tree now within your Sprite, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm going to shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out. And this is where you've been kind enough to prepare the 4 things that have shaped you, 3 things that inspire you, 2 things that never fail to grab your attention, and then 1 quirky or unusual fact about you, lovely actor Cal MacAninch, that we couldn't know until you tell us. So over to you in the canopy of the tree within your boat to shake those storytelling apples out.
Okay, what's the first one again?
It's 4 things that have shaped you.
Shaped me. Well, I have to say my parents. Firstly, I mean, I'm sure most people quite often say their parents, but not just for like my dad driving me to all my football matches when I was a kid and all that sort of thing. It's about the choices they made as people and as parents. That a lot of my life has been me saying, I'm not going to make those choices and I don't want that life. Because there's a quote I read once, which is the great tragedy of family is the unlived life of the parents. And my dad was a pilot in Bomber Command during the war, and he was a very clever guy. He spoke French and German fluently. Taught me the theory of flight when I was about 8 or something like that. I didn't understand it, but I just sort of enjoyed him talking to me. But the war finished, and he was thought of as a really good pilot, and he was going to be put onto the King's flights. He was going to fly the King. But my mum had had enough of war. She had 3 young children, and she said, no way, get out, you're coming home. So he was going to get into teacher training. The time he got demobbed, he didn't make the cut for teacher training. and got a job as a salesman, and never did anything else the rest of his life. That's what he was. He was a salesman, and he was I think he must have been a terrible salesman. When I read Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller as a kid, I was going, "That's my dad."
Wow.
And I sort of, part of me must have gone, I don't want to be that way. So I was going to be a footballer all my teenage years, and then I got my knee. I got into university, and I got my knee really badly damaged. Couldn't play anymore. And about a year later or something, I discovered acting purely by chance. And long story short, I decided, I got my degree, gave it to my parents, and said, I'm going to be an actor. Because I didn't want to be my dad that was unfulfilled. I wanted to live a life. I wanted to have adventures. You know, my mum used to sit on the sofa, and she had agoraphobia, and she'd sit on the sofa, and we lived on a sort of hill, and she could see across to the Campsie Hills north of Glasgow, and she'd sit and just gaze at them for hours, but she just couldn't go to them. And so there was this sort of yearning to do things that were never realized. And I thought, I don't want to be that. And so I've endeavored to have adventures all my life, and whether that's choosing to be an actor when I shouldn't have been an actor. I was too shy. I was, but it was a liberation for me being an actor. It was an adventure, and I took it. And I've gone on lots of adventures since then. I mean, whether it's late night bars in London and New York, or whether it's climbing the Old Man of Hoy, or, rowing an ocean, I've sort of determined to not be held back.
And riffing on windows of opportunity there, did you say that your father was about to be in the crew that would fly the King, did you say?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it was been a great honor as a pilot. And my mum was having none of it.
And it was almost the pinnacle.
Say again?
It was the pinnacle almost of his whole career.
Yeah. Well, he'd done all these missions in Bomber Command, which, when you think about it, absolutely terrifying.
Yes.
And then he was sent off to Canada to train the Canadian pilots. And then they brought him back to do even more bomber missions, so that must have been a horrendous thing. So to survive the war, his twin brother was killed. He was in the RAF as well. So his twin brother was killed. So there's all that, there's no counselling. There was no counselling. They all probably had PDSA, PT, was it? Post-traumatic stress.
PTSD, yeah.
PTSD, that's a vets or something.
And reading between the lines.
There was no, and also my mum, my mum lost a child at one point, no counselling. So there was reasons for the choices they made and the lives they had, but I just didn't want to have that life.
And are they no longer with us, both your parents?
Indeed, yes.
Yeah. Gosh, and that's so profound. The unlived dreams of your parents is what you put right. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, wonderful. Just let that hang there. That's just very wise and epic. Okay, back to the tree to shake out what else has shaped.
The second one sounds a bit boring, but it's not for me really. Is general term sport. Like I said, I was I lived for sport when I was a kid, football and running, and I thought I was going to be a professional footballer, and it was I felt quite trapped at home and at school, even though I was clever at school, but sport released me, and I was always running. I used to run home from primary school at lunchtime, and I guess I don't think I had any trainers then, so it'd be like school shoes. So God knows the damage I did to my body running home in school shoes every day. But I was always running and moving and keeping, and I loved it. And then getting my knee damaged when I was 17, 18. In retrospect, by that point, I was never going to be a professional. Got my knee badly damaged. I'd failed 2 out of my 3 exams in first year university. I was a bit lost, didn't know what I was doing, where I was going. So I was meant to do my resits. The football injury meant I got a medical certificate. My advisor of studies said, you have to make some points up. So why don't you try something easy, he said, like drama. I think it's now called theatre studies, but it was called drama then. And I never told my drama professor that he called it a neat subject. Anyway, something when he said drama, I got this little tickle in my stomach. And as I said, I was a very, very shy kid. I had no reason to want to do drama, apart from loving films when I was a kid, watched anything that was on the telly. But something happened when he said that. I thought, oh, drama, maybe I'll give drama a go. And it was a totally academic course. It wasn't practical at all. But you go into the class and they're studying Chekhov, and they said, let's get up on its feet. It's a play. It's not a, and just getting up on its feet. And then I was asked to do a play. And coincidentally, with Peter Mullen and I were in the same play together, my first ever play. And it was a Portuguese medieval comedy. Nevertheless, the first time I went on stage, I just knew that's what I wanted to do. Again, it was liberating. As a kid, I was told that old thing about be seen and not heard. That was a famous mantra in my house. So to be able to go on stage and go, it's okay to stand here and speak, was incredibly liberating. So, and
I love what I seem to be the liberating cacophony of your own family life now, with your surrounded by your gaggle of girls, your dogs, your cat. It's just wonderfully noisy, I'm assuming, which is
yes, you can say that, yeah. But sport is it's always even through acting and I did a lot of partying through my acting years, and but I always did sport. I always back to sport. I always stayed fit, and it kept me sane. And I went from the football. I sort of gave up football for a bit, and then went back to football. But always kept it running. There was a film company, Five Sides. Film companies pay money. They put their teams together, and the first proper year, it was done at Highbury, the old Highbury Arsenal ground, and we got to the semis or something. The next year it was done on the pitch, the full pitch at Stamford Bridge on the grass. It was split into 4 sections, and the film company paid for us to enter, and we won it. It was exhilarating. I felt like being a kid again.
So were you known as Sniffer MacAninch? Were you in there as a striker because of your enjoyment of running so much?
Well, here's the funny thing. When I was a kid, my first ever trial, I was 10, and they went round the room and said, who do you want? What position do you want to play? What position do you want to play? And I went, no. And I couldn't think of anything, so I just went goalkeeper, right? I'd never played. I played outfield. And they went, okay, you're in goals. And that was me. Sometimes in life you make decisions and then you're stuck in them for the rest of your life. And so I played goalkeeper, but and I was usually the fastest guy in the team. I was always really fast. When I was playing the five-a-sides, I was outfield, and I was a defensive midfield player. A bit like I was in the George Best film, and Paddy Crerand. I played Paddy Crerand in the film, wow. Defensive midfield player. So after I played Paddy Crerand, I would always wear number 4 if I played, which was his number. Anyway, so then I'd always kept running. I then got a wonderful job called Rockface, which was about a mountain rescue team in the Highlands, and I learnt to climb. And I remember in an interview around by that time, I said, acting gives you gifts and you choose whether to open them or not. And I opened this gift, and it changed my life. I became a climber for a while, but I also started hill running, and I was invited to run the Ben Nevis race, which I did do. And that was an extraordinary experience. But I climbed after that. Well, I didn't get the Alps, I didn't get the Himalayas and like that, but I climbed all over the world. I climbed in, all over Scotland, Wales, England, Turkey, strangely, Thailand, Australia, America, and I just loved it. And another job, I would train to be a boxer, which I loved doing the training for that as well. And then finally landing into coastal rowing, which again has been, a revelation for me, and I absolutely adore it.
And that wasn't through a part; that was just your proximity to the sea.
John had bought me a membership of a local club, and this club, and I rowed a few times with them. But there was a sort of breakaway group formed of people who wanted to take it more seriously, and to be proper competitors at the races. And they asked me to join, and I was too busy at the time and didn't. And then cut to a year later or something, and one of my mates who's in the club by now said, they're opening the club up to novices. Do you want to come and join? And I went for it, became a novice. And it's quite hard being a novice. I hate not knowing how to do something straight away. But then they taught me how to row. And every time you go out, you're always taught or you're teaching. And it's a great club to be part of. And everyone's got the will the will to win, the will to strive to be better, and they're great fun as well. Great fun, clever people, and it's very welcoming.
And there's a wonderful humility in starting as a novice, because then you're really there with a learning mindset of, come on, feed me this so I can grow and be.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's lovely being hungry for new things.
Yeah. And I loved your adage about, acting. And I know boating wasn't, the stuff aboard, the rowing is not for an acting job, but the idea that it gives you gifts which you decide to open or not. Wonderful stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just curating the length of this journey and our conversation together, we're still in the canopy of your trees. And
yes.
If there's any overlap, don't worry. But are we still in the shapeage, do you think? Or do you think we're on to inspiring now?
I could do more shapeage if you want. Very quickly.
Yeah, more shapeage.
I've certainly got to mention one of them, which was the next sort of stage of my journey from wanting to be an actor, was the Glasgow Citizens Theatre, which is a world famous theatre. There were 3 guys who ran it for 30 years or something. Robert David MacDonald, Giles Habigal, and Philip Prowse. And when I was a student, I was still a student, and I was very lucky to be asked. Well, I thought it was very lucky. For me, it again changed my life. I was asked to come and be an extra at the Citizens Theatre. I mean, all these amazing actors used to go. I've gone through the Citizens Theatre, brilliant, incredible names who are now film stars and things. And but I was asked to do Mary Stuart as an extra with Philip Prowse directing, and I can still remember the rehearsal room vividly. And it was the sort of top of the building, and you looked across to there was a railway track, and the trains would occasionally gently coast into Glasgow Central Station across the bridge, and there was always light coming in the windows, and I was there watching these incredible actors. They became my heroes, Anne Mitchell, Kieran Hines, Johnny Phillips, Fidelis Morgan, these amazing actors doing Mary Stuart. What a text. And this incredible production that I was just an extra in. But here's the important thing. I was so happy. Yeah, I was happy. I wasn't saying any lines, but I was happy. And I was really happy at this. I did many shows as an extra. And it's almost like the benchmark. Everything else I do in my life as an actor has to measure up to that feeling of completeness, even though I wasn't even speaking.
But there's a novice parallel there with the fact you sit there as a novice, just acutely observing, and the best actors are acute observers. Ah,
there you go. Well, I had bloody acutely observed. I used to stand in the wings during shows and just watch them, just take it all in. And I just absolutely loved it. And then, so I'm an extra. I've done a few shows. I then wrote to Philip Prowse. I was asked to be an extra again. I said, I'm not an extra. I'm an actor. Please give me a chance. And so he was coming up to do, I think he was coming to do The Vortex, which then went to the West End with Rupert Everett. Anyway, it was to Spiddy She's a Whore. Anyway, he auditioned me and I got a couple of lines in Spiddy She's a Whore. I got a couple of plays that season, and he invited me back a couple of times. And then I went off to London, and I started to do filming work. And then out the blue, my agent calls and says, Philip Prowse wants you to play Hamlet for him. Oh my God! Can you imagine? Boy from Glasgow, getting to work at the Citizens Theatre as an extra, but then coming back as Hamlet. Oh my God, it was one of the best moments of my life. Absolutely. Tremendous.
Wow. I like silence every now and again just to let that... Lovely stuff. And now 3 things that inspire you. And there could be overlap because you're being very inspirational in what you're saying anyway.
Well, I've got to say my beloved wife, Shauna, not only is she a brilliant actor, brilliant actor, and she
this
runs...
This is Shona MacDonald, just to give her the full title.
MacDonald, yeah. She started the local youth theatre. She runs that. She now teaches hundreds of kids. She's got her own company teaching people how to use their voices properly. But she also did an Ironman when she was still breastfeeding her second daughter. Which is, for people who don't know what an Ironman is, it's an ultra triathlon. So it's 2.5 mile swim, 112-mile bike, and then a full marathon. I mean, and she was still breastfeeding, not at the same time. But I take it back to basically not just wife, but mother of my children. I think having the experience of seeing your children born, and my wife giving birth, that probably is that is the greatest thing in my life, even greater than Hamlet. And and all three babies were different, born differently, obviously. But our first born, Shauna, was 4 days in labor, 4 days drug-free, using breathing techniques, hypnobirthing breathing techniques. And of course, there was a sort of delirium for both of us from lack of sleep, for 4 days. But there was times I was just sitting there watching her, and I was going, this is the center of the universe. This is what it is about. It's not about anything else. It's about this. And I was probably tripping off my tits. But,
no, trip away off your tits. I love that.
I'll never forget that feeling. And the second time we were in South Africa, I got a job doing Wild at Heart, and we were there for 5 months, and knew Shauna was pregnant. Second baby born in a birthing pool in the middle of an electrical storm, all around us, in the middle of nowhere in South Africa. And then the third baby, I was doing a play in the West End, and they gave me 2 nights off when I chose to come up the road to be at the birth of my baby. 2 nights. And the baby was a week late, and Shauna was really stressed, and she said, look, just come up on the Saturday morning, take the Saturday shows off, and hopefully you being here will help the baby come.
Yes.
I took the shows off. woke up on Sunday morning, no baby, and I'm going, oh no, what do I do now? Do I go back? Do I stay off the Monday? Do I give up my last show? What do I do? It was so stressful. Anyway, the baby came Sunday night into Monday morning, and I took the Monday off and went back to work on the Tuesday. But so very, very stressful. That was very stressful for Shauna as well. But yes, what my wife giving birth is just the ultimate in life experience.
As you said, the center of everything. This is it. The electrical storm, the birthing pool. I thought you were going to say they wheeled on a birthing pool center stage whilst you're on the play. Excuse me, darlings, I'm off to do my own act 4, scene 7. The birth of my
yes. That would have got a round of applause for sure.
I'm clapping now. It's good. Wonderful. So yes, we're still. This is lovely, by the way, and we're still in the inspirational part of your canapé.
Yes.
Canapé.
The films of John Cassavetes.
Darling, let's get all cultured now.
Here's a left field one. When I just moved to London, and I stumbled across these series of screenings by this guy who I knew was an actor from The Dirty Dozen and Rosemary's Baby, and Johnny Staccato. It's a TV detective he played once. But I didn't know he was a film director. And I started going to see these films, and he's thought of as the godfather of American independent movies, And
just say his name one more time, just so it hangs there.
John Cassavetes.
Yes.
And of course I got to experience, his wife was Jenna Rowlands, who is probably the greatest American actor never to have achieved an Oscar, but she is probably my favorite, certainly American actor. She's just absolutely stunning, especially in his movies. And they just sort of changed the way I saw acting.
And is there a pinnacle film you'd like to recommend if people want to cut their teeth on there?
A Woman Under the Influence is incredible performance from Jenna Rowlands, but the one that really got me was the one called Opening Night. And even though I was watching it as a young actor, it's about an older actress who is on tour with a play. They're bringing it into the big city. So they're on tour, just working on it, getting it right before they bring it into the big city, a new play. And a young fan, this is right at the start, is killed by a car just at the very start of the film. And this sends her into a spiral of, her own mortality and, her life as an actor and getting older and what that means, and her own self-doubt. And you've got Ben Gazzara, John Cassavetes himself is in it, Jenna Rowlands. The cast is just amazing. and at the very end, and there's lots of scenes in the wings, and there's lots of scenes of them on stage, and you get glimpses of audience and things. So you've combined theatre and film. I mean, for me, it was just revelation. At the end, Cassavetes and Rollins have this brilliant scene at the end where they're on stage together and they start improvising. Oh, it's just amazing. And it just blew me away. And shortly after that, I used to go to the Actors Centre for classes, and a guy called Scott Williams introduced Britain to the Meisner technique, and I happened to be in those first classes. And it sort of reminded me of the Cassavetes films, being in the moment and listening and responding, and that's what it felt like. I mean, Cassavetes films apparently were scripted, but they feel like they're improvised. And it's that sort of feel I loved.
There is a recurring theme of the novice in you, where you want to be in the present moment and just listen and absorb and listen. So I think
that makes a good actor. If you're listening, whenever you feel things are going wrong, just take it back to listening. Just go, you know what, I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to do nothing in this take or this scene. See what happens. And something happens, and you'll respond if you let yourself. Yeah. And that's when the scene comes alive for an audience.
And there is that old actor's joke about a very well-established actor going up to a younger actor and saying, "Excuse me, I've just been watching you. What are you doing?" And the young actor says, "Well, I thought I'd do nothing." And then the actor goes, "No, I'm doing nothing." Yeah. So it's almost a competition to do nothing, to be the best one doing nothing.
Well, I tell you, if two actors were doing nothing but they were listening, that would be electric.
Love that. I did a bit of listening there. Don't know if you noticed. Marvellous. Brilliant stuff. So quick slurp of the old, what are you drinking? Is that tea or coffee that you just slurped?
It is coffee. I'm addicted to coffee. I have about five strong coffees a day. I'm sure it's not good for me.
This is going deliciously, by the way. So we're still up in the canapé of your tree in your boat. And we could be, is that the end of inspiring? You've been very inspiring.
I've got another inspiring if you want, very quickly.
Go for it, Des.
Because I'm going there today. Whenever I walk along in Glasgow, whenever I walk along the Gallowgate or go along London Road and Celtic Park comes into view, it fills me with incredible joy, emotion, every single time. Because it means so much. It's so much part of our culture. Growing up as a Catholic family in Glasgow, I'm a devout atheist now, of course, but it meant so much at the time, and what it's become subsequently. I mean, apart from all the wonderful friendships and what happens in the stadium and the joy and the ecstasy and the pain and all that sort of stuff. When one of my sister's sons, his dad was never about, and when he was about 14, I started taking him to Celtic games when I lived in London. So for many years, I would travel up to take him every fortnight to the football. I took him to his first time abroad, took him to Paris to see Celtic against Paris Saint-Germain. We had so many firsts together, so many experiences together. It was an incredible bonding thing, and I became like a surrogate father figure to him. And
sure you did.
You can't really underestimate the power of football in that sense, bringing people together. It's an incredibly bonding experience for some people.
And I don't doubt you are his surrogate father to this day, I'm sure, because of those extraordinary trailblazing experiences you gave him.
Yeah, we're very close.
And what's his name?
Even Graham.
Graham.
And even when my mum died, and I was with my eldest brother in the hospital about 5 a.m, and then she died, and I sort of had to tell everyone, and then later on I had to make the funeral arrangements. Got back to the family house where my sister still lived with her 2 kids, and we were just sort of sitting about, and there was my mum's family friend was round, and I said, it was a Saturday, I remember, and I said to Graham, "Get your scarf, son, we're going to the game." And my mum's friend said, "Oh, Callum, you can't do that. Your mother's just died." And I said, "Listen, Maura, you grieve in your way, and I'll grieve in my way." And it was the best thing I could have done. We went there, saw Celtic Park, hove into view, And I knew I'd made the right decision. And we sat together and we watched the game, and it was brilliant.
And of course you made the right decision. And again, it set you free, the idea of not being trapped by the mindset that had trapped all before you.
Exactly. In the family house.
Because there was almost an invocation to agoraphobia in that moment. No, stay indoors. Do not go out.
Yes.
Do not celebrate in the arena and the theatre of life.
Absolutely.
Of the stadium.
Yeah, you're right. And I fought against that. You're absolutely right.
No, and well done indeed. Congratulations. And of course you fought against it, because that's who you are. I love that.
Yeah.
This is great, by the way, and I'm so sorry about needing to get a bit of a lick on just through the structure.
Actually,
if it happens, and by the way, this is not unknown. If we end up straying into it taking too long, I'll try and squeeze 2 episodes out of you, because you're being gorgeous, if I may say. Okay, so now 2 things, and slightly comically inspired by the film Up. This is a bit of the dog going, oh, squirrels. 2 things that never fail to grab your attention, irrespective of what else is going on in your life. Cal MacAninch.
Okay, well, a child crying or a child in the street that says daddy, and I'm on instantly high alert. Like that. In a cafe or somewhere, what? Where? It's like squirrel. What? Oh, hey, what? So it happens all the time. It comes from once the babies had their own rooms, their own beds and things. I used to try and give Shauna a break. So I would sort of, if they cried in the night, I would go to them.
Yeah.
So I've got that thing about in the night. I'm a very light sleeper now, certainly, and anything I'm wide awake. What? So. Anybody's kid cries. Anybody's kid says "daddy," and I'm at the whole time. So it's very sweet, but it's also a curse.
It's quite military as well. Attention, whoop, daddy.
Yep.
And then you're up to it. I love that.
Yeah.
It's very disciplined and very present of you. Wonderful. Very acutely in the moment again. It's a lovely thread that you have.
Well, the other one isn't really. Well, is it in the moment? I don't know. The other one is tattoos. Tattoos. Whenever I see anyone with tattoos, I instantly look at them. And it's always that case. If it's a guy, I sort of go, oh, better not, just in case he's, thinks I'm, being aggressive or something, And if it's a girl, oh, no, better not, because, she might think I'm ogling her or something. And then I stop and I go, wait a minute. Anyone who I have stopped and said, I love your tattoos. Can I see them? Where did you get them done? They love it because it's artwork. It's art.
Yes.
They've got to a lot of trouble to put them on their arms and their bodies. Yes. Of course they want you to look at them. So yeah, tattoos. I've got just a couple of little ones. There's that one, CND, and there's a little one there, just a little one. And now I'm a bit older. I thought, I can get anything done in my body now, because the chances of me being asked to take my top off now as I get older are happening, fewer and fewer times. And so maybe I can get my whole body done, whole chest.
Yes.
But recently I did a thing. I've got an episode of a thing called The Essex Serpent, playing Claire Danes' husband in one episode. And we're doing this scene, and they came to me and they said, Cal, I think the scene would work if you took your top off. Do you mind? And I had my myself going, I thought I was too old for taking my top off. And
by the way, what's delicious about that, I cannot fathom a director ever saying to me, to Chris Grimes, this would work better, this scene, if you took your top off. So I respect you for that, because it just would not make the scene work in my case.
But I said, I said to them, well, I don't mind, but I've got tattoos, and this is not it's not scripted, so you haven't prepared time to fix them. And they said, the makeup women said, let me see. And they went, no problem. And they took an arm each and went, and I went, whoa, that was quick. And, the technology has moved on so much that, they were up in seconds, and it was, brilliant, did it? Whereas years ago, I was filming Wild at Heart and lots of short sleeves, and they said, oh, in this show, there's no tattoos. So I only had one tattoo then. And she had such a job covering my tattoo, and she kept saying, oh, it's the color of blue. It's the color of blue. It's coming through the makeup all the time. And I don't know whether that was rubbish or not, whether she was just a rubbish makeup person, but certainly now. Oh,
you're being so lovely. You're sort of auditioning for everything as you go. You're doing lovely voices and little snippets of character here. This is lovely. And the people that you've met. I love this. This is great. Wonderful. So now a quirky or unusual fact about you we couldn't possibly know till you tell us.
Oh, I couldn't really think of anything. I mean, I started to learn Gaelic a year ago. Is that a quirky fact?
Awesome fact. And what's the Gaelic word of the day, please.
Well, I said one earlier, Grianach, but that means sunshine, but there's not very much of it.
Thank you for that wonderful Gaelic demonstration. I love that.
No, years ago I was doing a children's series in Wales, and I speak some Welsh in it. A wonderful story by Jenny Nimmo, wonderful children's author, and so I took myself off to the Nant Gwthern, which is a national language school in Wales, and lived in for a week and learned Welsh for a week.
Yeah,
and I so loved it. I loved it. Going up to the pub, and everyone's speaking Welsh. I loved it, and I thought I must take myself off to Skye or somewhere and immerse myself in the Gaelic language sometime. Well, that was a long time ago, and I didn't do it. But as I said, my father-in-law's family are from Lewis, and they speak Gaelic, and I really wanted. We go up there all the time now, and I really wanted to be able to go up and have a conversation. So I started learning Gaelic, and I love it. It's a bit like learning a script. You're learning lines, and it keeps your brain going, and there's no pressure. I'm not doing it. I don't have a time scale, I just learn. I've started going to study classes. I've had the same teacher now for a year, but this course is now through Edinburgh University, so it's up a little bit. That's what it feels like. And now she teaches in Gaelic, which is like the way you have to learn. So you're listening all the time to Gaelic, and I just love it. It's ancient language. It's brilliant.
And back to your wonderment of being a novice. I just love that recurring.
Yes.
Go you.
Yes.
And I love just how absolutely interested in everything you are, which is why you're a delicious human being. I love that. Okay, now I'm very tempted to ask you back for a second time. We're not going to give this the due recognition it needs, but do you mind just let me hurl you along to the end of this structure, but then we'll come back. So now alchemy and gold. We've stepped away from your tree now. We're still in the clearing. When you're at purpose and in flow, Cal, and you've given us lots of insight into this, but when are you at your happiest in what you're here to reveal to the world?
It's hard. There's obviously being with my children is gives me immense joy when we're all laughing and playing together. It's a joyful thing. But I think, can I say in general, just when it's that thing about being present. When I was climbing a rock face and I felt strong and present to the rock face, and everything was flowing, or rowing the boat when the whole crew is rowing as one, in amongst the children when everyone was playing together. It's that sense of being absolutely present to whatever it is I'm doing. And when I've had that feeling, it's the best feeling in the world. Acting on stage, the audience is there with you and all the heartbeats synchronize. It's, in it, being in it is when I'm happiest, whatever it is.
And a lovely recurring theme there of the presence. When your presence is required, being still and present and listening. And you have to be a novice, if you like, on a rock face, because it's life or death. You're clinging there.
I used to say about climbing and acting, I said they both feel like life and death, but only one of them is.
Yes, beautiful. We are going to be here to do more, because I'm not going to give you the justice you deserve. Just now, though, when I'm going to award you with a cake now for gracing us with your presence here.
Yes.
And again, apologies for going slightly quicker than I'd like, but we'll come back if you are willing to say yes.
Yes.
So the cake is the cherry on the cake, the legacy of the conversation. And let's just go straight to the Shakespeare. Inspired by all the world to stage and all the men and women merely players and the 7 ages of man, when all is said and done, Cal MacAninch, how would you most like to be remembered? I love a feeling when people don't think you can do something, and then you go and do it really well. So I think, to be remembered, he exceeded expectations. I would love to exceed people's expectations. Wonderful. And very quickly, where can we find out more about Cal MacAninch on the interweb?
The website's not up and running yet because I'm rowing an ocean next year. So, but look out for Atlantic Body and Soul. They're going to be on Instagram and Twitter and all sorts of things. So Atlantic Body and Soul. Body and Soul is the wonderful charity that I'm rowing for. Atlantic Body and Soul.
Wonderful. I'm going to come back to you in just a moment, but thank you very much indeed. You've been listening to me, Chris Grimes, and this, very importantly, has been Cal MacAninch in the Life and Times with me, Chris Grimes, clearing. Anything else you'd like to say as this is your moment in the sunshine, Cal MacAninch?
No, thank you very much, Chris. Thank you. You create a wonderful, welcoming, warm place to share thoughts, ideas, and lives.
So thank you very much indeed. I'll stop recording there. If you're listening to me on UK Health Radio, to your good health, I'll also pull this into the Buzzsprout base. And in fact, the Captain's Log supplemental, the postscript we're about to do, is going to be on the Buzzsprout space. But thank you very much indeed, and good night.